Beautiful sunshine. Thank you for your checking of the Park City of Washington, let's see, Utah Department of Transportation Commission meeting at 8:30 a.m. Let us start the meeting with the pledge. I will ask please all rise.
Several times when I was senator in this area. Thank you, Mayor, for letting us come, and we are glad to be here. And the highways are smooth.
They are smooth. And my name is Nagi Zanadi. I'm coming from sunny St. George. And I would like to also excuse Commissioner Natalie Gochner. She's out of town, out of state, on a state business.
Out of country?
Out of country. But she sends her love along also with the Carlos, who is with her. Now, UDOT family, please.
Terry Newell, Deputy Director. Lisa Wilson, Deputy Director.
Rob White, UDOT Region 1 Director. Troy Peterson, Operations Director. I'm Bob Tully, Skip Coordinator. Brad Palmer, I'm the Region 2 Program Manager.
Brad Farnsworth, Region 2 Planning Manager.
Robert Miles, Director of Traffic Safety.
Mike Felder, Director of Legislative Affairs.
Peter Asplin, Deputy Director of Policy and Legislative Affairs.
Kirk Thornock, Region 4 Deputy Director.
Charles Stormont, Director of Roadways.
Robert Stewart, Region 2 Director.
Ben Hewitt, Program Development Director.
Rob Clayton, I'm the Region 3 Director.
Martin Swanwick, Project Development Director.
And Carl for next program. For Technology Innovation.
Thank you. And I also would like to acknowledge and welcome our federal partners, Ivan Marrero and Brigitte Mendel. Good morning to you. Okay. Now, by way of tradition, we give the mayor of the town's opportunity to welcome us to this beautiful place that you call home.
Thank you so much for choosing to have your meeting here. It means a lot to us that you came. I hope you're having a wonderful time. And thank heavens the sunshine came out again today. We need the rain, but it's been a little dreary the last few days. So my name is Nan Worrell. I have the privilege of serving as mayor of this town. And we are so grateful for the partnership that we have with UDOT. We could not be doing the things that we are with our innovative transportation ideas without the support and partnership of UDOT, as well as with Summit County. Just to tell you a little bit about us, we have a year-round population of about 8,500 people, and yet several times a year we swell to 100,000 in town, or 80,000, especially during our big festivals such as Sundance. Visitor spending is a really important part of our economy. In fact, in 2021, our economy swelled to $1 billion in sales, and then about 65 million of that went to the state sales taxes. As you may have noticed, our traffic congestion has reached a tipping point, and we're actively working to solve our transportation challenges. With our constrained valley that's serviced by 2 entry corridors, it becomes an increasing challenge every year, and that's why we need the partnerships to make it all work. Our visitors and residents demand a high level of service, and our staff works overtime trying to make that happen. I'm really excited to tell you that last night at our 7-hour city council meeting, we adopted our long-range transportation plan. It's been a long time in the works. COVID kind of slowed that down a little bit for us, but it's adopted, and the applause in the chambers was overwhelming when that happened. Our UDOT partnership has provided us with the essential tools that we need for our peak traffic congestion. Through this partnership, we're able to use data and real-time travel information to provide our residents and recreational and event visitors some tools to help them get around in town. Our radio station also tells us on peak days when it's the best time to go to the grocery store. So, another example of our partnership is you allowing us to use the shoulders of State Road 224 and 248 for a flexible bus lane. We're thankful for the partnership that we have with Summit County and with High Valley Transit and UDOT as we work on our State Road 224 bus rapid transit project. 36% of our fleet, we're proud to say, is currently electrified. We're working to achieve 100% electric fleet by 2030. We have 2 intersections that are benefiting from the Summit intersection study, and we believe that's going to result in a buildable project in the very near future with very positive impacts. We're also grateful for the transportation improvement funding. We could not move our major capital projects forward without this resource. Your support for our most needed walkability and transit projects allows Park City to continue to provide excellent recreational amenity for our visitors and our residents alike. So again, thank you so much for your partnership with us. Thank you for choosing Park City today. I hope you have a wonderful time here.
Thank you, Mayor. For the rest of the leadership for the county or the city council, I will have the opportunity to ask them to speak at the public hearing portion. Okay? Thank you, Mayor. Item number 2 in your agenda is a local area presentation by Region 2, and we have Brad Palmer to lead us, followed by Grant Farnsworth.
All right. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about a number of projects that we've got in the Summit County area. Just to give a little background on Summit County, the mayor already mentioned the population of Park City, but for the county as a whole, they have about 43,000 people in the county. It's the 10th most populous county in the state, and UDOT has 10 state routes through the area. 3 of them are freeway style, I-80, I-84, and US 40. And then the remainder are high-speed highways. There's also 16 cities and towns through the area, through the county that UDOT tries to service. And I just wanted to give that a little bit of background on that as we go through these projects and look at funding. There's quite a bit of a number of projects that we do every year through the county, and I'm going to tabulate the funding that we do through the area, but I wanted to give you a perspective on the population as we go through that also. So when I do these area updates, I always like to do kind of a look back for a few years and see the projects that we've recently completed, look at current projects, and then look at a few that are coming in the near future. So since 2020, UDOT has completed 14 projects in Summit County. 7 of those are paving projects. We had 1 safety project, 2 structure projects, 2 miscellaneous type projects, and then 2 local government projects. And one of those large local government we drove through in the tour yesterday, the Jeremy Ranch project. But 2 of these projects that I really wanted to highlight today are the I-84 and SR-65. And this one has kind of a weird name. We were trying to figure out how to name this one and didn't name it very well, but it's a paving and bridge preservation project. We replaced a bridge and we added a bunch of cable barrier. So a little bit of history on this bridge, or on this project, was we had 3 projects that we were looking at this exact location that fell within about a 2 or 3 year time period. When we were going through our programming meetings at the region, we realized that we're going to be impacting this area for a number of years. And we didn't want to have that kind of impact on the residents. And so we worked with our structures group, our paving group, and our safety group to get all these projects into one. We combined the money, got them in the right years. And so that's why we ended up with this kind of hodgepodge of a name here. But the main scope of this project was to do some bridge preservation work on the I-84 bridges that cross over Hennifer Road and the Weber River. We actually replaced the entire structure that crosses SR-65 over I-80 or I-84. We did preservation treatments on the SR-65 bridges over the UPRR tracks out there on I-84 also. And then the rehabilitation project on the pavement was a 3-inch mill and fill that went from the Morgan County line down to the I-80 interchange. We also installed 6 miles of new cable barrier through the area. And this, combining all of them together, it created a fairly large size project of $13.2 million. And the project completed in the fall of 21. And just to show a few pictures of the project, on the left there, we show the brand new pavement that we put down on I-84. The middle picture, we've got the cable barrier being installed in the center of the freeway, hoping to prevent a lot of those crossover type crashes. And then we always love to have pictures of our girders being placed on our bridges. So that's the one that we've got on the right there. We were hoping to show this one in the tour yesterday, but with the size of Summit County, we wanted to keep our tour a little bit more contained on a shorter route. This would have extended our tour by probably a couple hours going up there and back, but luckily we were able to highlight it here in the presentation as well. Second project is also up in the Echo Canyon area. This was a truck parking project. And I don't know if the commission remembers, but about 2 years ago, UDOT was approached by FHWA, said, hey, we've got a grant, we've got some grant money that other states haven't been able to spend. Can UDOT take this? And the reason they approached us was one of my predecessors at the region had actually submitted a grant application back in 2012 to get some funding to do this parking area. And 7 years had passed by and nothing. We didn't receive the money. We hadn't heard anything about it. And then all of a sudden it just popped up and they said, you can have the money, but you've got to get it out the door within 7 months. And we love that challenge. So we took it on and we got the project approved by the commission in January. And we had it out the door by early September of that same year. So this project constructed 21 new stalls for semi trucks. We rebuilt the on-ramp. We found that it was substandard for all these trucks that were going to be parking. They didn't have enough length to get up to speed as they entered 65 miles an hour on I-80. So we lengthened out that ramp. We installed new lighting. We put in a new drainage system. And then our central maintenance group was also planning to rebuild the restroom facilities there. So we worked really closely with that group and had our contractor, the project contractor, go in and stub all the utilities and do the site preparation for that building to come in. This was a $1.8 million project, and it just completed this past spring. And just to show a few pictures of this, we got the excavation work there on the left, the barrier in the middle there. This actually separates the parking area from mainline I-80. And one thing to note about this is listening to our maintenance crews in the area. When we've always had truck parking at this location, just not as much. It was a little scattered around, a little hodgepodge, and our maintenance crews would often have to go up there and have to clean up a lot of garbage, a lot of debris that was left by the truckers. They just didn't have good facilities to take care of all their garbage and things. And so this barrier, having this new facility in place, it's really reduced the amount of maintenance that our crews have to take care of. So it's helped in a number of ways, not only with the parking itself. And then, of course, we got a picture there on the right of placing the concrete around the new restroom facilities.
Do you have an idea how many trucks are using it now?
With it just barely opening last spring, I don't know that we've gotten a lot of good data on that. I think we'll see a lot more use of it as winter hits and they need to stage there during the storms and things like that.
21 stalls would last about 5 minutes if all of them had to pull in. But anyway, that's a great project.
Yeah.
Are we noticing we're having fewer parked down the side of the freeway? If you know, they used to do that before you gave more space there. Seems like when I go by there, they were just kind of pulling up on the side of the freeway there.
Yeah, and I don't know that we'll ever have enough truck parking.
But at least
to be
you're
honest
getting
with
more,
you.
at least
Yep.
not as many parking there.
Yep, exactly. And anytime we can get grant money, we'll take it and use it, so.
Hear that, Ivan?
So moving on to projects that we have underway this year. We've got 4 of them going in the county. A couple of them have recently completed, but we've got a paving project on SR 150. This is a lane level and chip seal, and it's just about done. We'll finish that in just a few more weeks. The Echo Bridge Deck Preservation Project is also underway and will be completing next spring. We've got our I-80 median concrete barrier project. We actually looked at it on the tour yesterday, and that one just completed in the summer in July. And we've got one more safety project. This one's also up Echo Canyon near where the truck parking area is located. It goes from the interchange with I-84 about 11 miles up the road. And there we're going to be installing quite a few safety features. And the 2 projects that I wanted to focus in on are the 2 safety projects, the median concrete barrier and the roadway improvement project. So let me give more details on those. So the median concrete barrier project, this one, we had noticed a number of run off the road crashes occurring at this location. Our traffic and safety group dug into the data and found that there had been 9 people that had roadway departure type crashes at this location. They applied for Highway Safety Improvement Program money and were awarded $2 million. And the way that program works is the regions have to submit applications to our central traffic and safety group. And then it's compared, our central group does a benefit cost analysis on these projects to determine which ones score the highest and will have the most effect to improve safety. And this is statewide. Each region doesn't get an allocated amount. We have to compete against every other project in the state. And this one scored well enough that we were able to get $2 million. We installed a mile of precast concrete barrier from the Jeremy Ranch exit going west. With it being installed this year or completed this year, we don't have any data yet to understand how it's affecting the roadway. We usually need about 3 years worth of data to get a better understanding there. So we'll be watching this for the next few years and see if it helps with those departure crashes. Here's some pictures of the construction of that. When we put this type of barrier in place, we need to do a lot of site preparation. We needed to widen out the shoulder to give more space between the traveling or the edge line there and the barrier. We find at high speeds when cars are approaching an obstacle such as a barrier, they have a tendency to shy away from it. And so we like to give them a nice shoulder area so that we don't have that type of movement with the vehicles. You can see the middle picture, they've placed the concrete. Those workers are doing a little bit of finish work on it. And then the picture on the right there was installing the crash cushion at the western end of the project. Second project here is on I-80 going from the Echo, I-84, I-80 interchange eastward. This area, we also noticed a number of crashes. I'm going to find my data here. 51% of crashes in this section of roadway were due to run off the road crashes. And so we wanted to target that specific type of crash with the scope here of installing 45,000 feet of guardrail, 2,800 feet of 42-inch concrete barrier. And then we also added a number of signs to help with curve warning signs, chevrons. So as they're approaching those curves, they know that they need to slow down. And then chevrons around the curve so that at night they can see that the roadway is actually turning. This one also was funded through our HSIP program. It was awarded $4.6 million, and construction is nearly complete. We're just about done with it. It'll be complete this fall. And just a few pictures. This is a picture of some guardrail going in. Whenever we install guardrail, we have to have very tight grading requirements leading into that guardrail so that the vehicles, as if they are departing the road and they're approaching the guardrail, they have an opportunity to either correct themselves and recover, or if they're going to impact it, we don't want them going under the guardrail or have the potential to flip over it. So we have pretty strict requirements for that. So the picture on the left there is the contractor grading that in place. The middle picture is getting that final placement of road material down, and then the guardrail itself being installed. And I'm just going to back up on the slide so you can see the final product at that location, how it looks. Again, we place it a ways off the roadway just so that we don't have an initial impact if the vehicle does depart the road. But if they continue to proceed, they'll hit it and hopefully limit the severity of the crash at that point. All right, so upcoming projects. We have a lot more coming in the next few years to Summit County. We've got 17 projects. 10 of them are going to be paving projects, 4 more safety projects, and then 3 structure projects coming to the area for a combined project value of just under $64 million. The first project I wanted to highlight, we also saw this one on the tour, and the commission approved this one last month. But I wanted to give a few more details, especially to those that weren't on the tour yesterday. And then the second project I'll highlight is a bunch of wildlife fencing up in Summit County in the I-80, I-84 area. We've had a strong focus in that area, but there's a lot that's been going on up there. So the US 40 SR 248 interchange. This one came about from, we've actually been looking at it for a number of years, but it's progressively gotten worse and worse whenever we have special events within Park City or high ski days. A lot of people are getting off US 40 trying to come into town. And what we've noticed is we don't have so much congestion on US 40 itself, but as they get off the off ramps, our signals down there and the diamond type interchange just doesn't allow for an efficient movement of vehicles coming all at one time. And so what we're hoping is this will be an interim solution, and we're looking at a more permanent long-term solution here. But the interim solution will be to expand the off-ramp storage capacity. So we're going to look at adding some dual left turn lanes or right turn lanes, whatever's needed. We'll do some further traffic analysis to help us understand what that looks like, how long it needs to be, things like that. And then we'll also be doing some adjustments to the signal timing to see if we can flush more traffic through. So if we're pushing, rather than one lane pushing through a signal, if we can push 2 lanes in, if we can get more people down on the ramp so they're not backing all the way to mainline US 40, easing that stop condition on a freeway, we'll feel that we're successful with this project. The commission approved $3 million last month on this project. We usually like to start design for these types of projects a few months ago. And so we're targeting to get this in construction in 2024 rather than 23. But like I mentioned on the tour yesterday, if we can get into design now and we don't have a lot of right of way or utility impacts, we feel that we can probably progress the design fairly fast and hopefully get it advertised late spring and possibly in construction next summer. So that's our best case scenario, but if not, we'll shoot for 24 because we don't want to put it out to advertising too late and not get good bids. This next project, the I-84 wildlife fencing project. We have been working with the Division of Wildlife Resources for a couple years, looking at accidents in this area. And what we actually just finished up a study this past year that helped us understand what's going on a little bit more. But basically what we're seeing is 46% of crashes at this area are involving wildlife. And so it's a pretty big concern to us. It's been in the news a number of times. There's actually been college students doing some of their thesis on this, and it's been interesting to read some of their results also. But one of the things that came out of the report was we only get a fraction of the crashes that occur out here that are reported to law enforcement. So where we've had 46 crashes actually reported to law enforcement since 2017, UDOT's charged with going out and picking up carcasses that are left on the roadway. We'll see about 150 carcasses on the roadway a year. So whether they're just barely being nicked and can't, the animals can't make it the rest of the way across the road and they end up perishing at that point is probably what's happening. Maybe some large trucks are hitting them and just not realizing it. But a lot of animals are being hit at this location but we are also getting a lot of reports. And so working with the Division of Wildlife Resources, we've come up with a plan, a phased approach, because we don't think we can do a large multi-million-dollar, like $10 million worth of fencing at one time. So what we're planning to do is more in the line of about 3 or 4 million at a time. And we did apply for HSIP money on this project. We were awarded 1.6 million. The region will most likely ask for 1.2 million of transportation solution money this coming year. So you'll probably see that in one of our requests. And then the Division of Wildlife Resources was actually just awarded a grant, and they'll be adding another $250,000 to the project also. So a good partnership with them to get this project out the door, and we do expect that it'll be constructed in 2024. So with all those projects from 2020 to 2025.
Can I ask a question
Oh.
before you leave there?
You bet.
So is there an underpass or overpass? I mean, we could fence them off, but this is a major migratory area. How are we going to be able to figure out some way to let those animals move back and forth, or where are we at that?
That's a really good question. We have not figured out how to get like an over or underpass out there yet. As far as funding goes, we need to do some more research on how we could actually fund something like that. And so our immediate concern right now is to fence it off and just prevent them from getting on the roadway itself. But you're absolutely correct. A long-term solution, we need to find a crossing. And the study did identify that. We just need to figure out how to fund it.
Okay, thank you.
How many overpasses like that do we have in the state for wildlife these days?
I'm only aware of one. Does anybody know if
That's
we
the
have
one yeah.
more than one?
I think we have a number of underpasses.
Yeah, we do.
All right.
We do.
There's a couple out. There's 1 or 2 out here on 40. You don't
right.
know it's there, but
Yeah,
we
that's
put
right.
one in a year or so ago.
We have some on 191
Yeah.
in the Canab area.
Hmm.
Well, Brad, can you just put a sign up that says they're crossing in English so they can read and less expensive way to remedy?
Might be cheaper to teach them how to read. So just a brief summary of where we're at, 2020 to 2025. We've spent about $133 million in project value in Summit County. And just a reminder of the size of the county, 43,000 residents, the 10th largest county in the state. From our funding sources, we feel like we've done a pretty good job of keeping the roadways. If you look at the map here, we've hit a lot of our roadways over those 5 or 6 years. We spent a lot of money up here, but we're also not done. And my last slide here, I won't spend much time on this, but I just wanted to point it out, especially with how we hit transit and active transportation on the tour yesterday. This is a list of all the funding pass-through money that we're providing to both Park City and Summit County. And this is coming from our TIF, the TIF Transit, the TIF Active, and the first mile, last mile TIF programs. In fact, I think this is hiding some of our, let me just make sure. There's about $100 million worth of project value in these 8 projects. 40% of that, $40 million, is coming from those 3 programs. And then there were also 2 grants awarded to Summit County, $8 million from FTA, and then another $25 million that was just announced about a month ago with the RAISE grant on the SR 224 BRT system. So we're trying our, yes.
Brad, I just asked, what number 4, what's the difference between a side path and a multi-use pathway and ped bike?
They're pretty much the same thing. That's their intent, is a multi-use path. It was
Okay,
just
alone.
named side path.
They're getting more and more use these days. Those e-bikes, even my generation, we're out there.
When we look at it from a constructability standpoint, it's actually cheaper for us to do that, because if we put a bike lane on a roadway, we have to build that entire road.
Yeah, right.
3 feet deep to accommodate that. If we put a shared use path on the side of the road and get the bike off the roadway onto the side, we're only building a fraction of that, only about 6 or 8 inches worth of roadway. So it's something we're looking at quite a bit on our end. And with that, I'll answer any additional questions the commission may have, or we'll just turn it over to Grant.
I hope that you can share this with the mayor and the city council of the Summit County, that how much money they received and how much money they will still receive, so they can share it with their constituent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Grant, you're up.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
It's wonderful to be with you. I look forward to being able to present a few studies that we have going on in the Summit County area. Yesterday in the commission tour, we reviewed some of the future studies going on in the Park City area. So I wanted to kind of focus a little bit more broader in the rural area. The long-range rural transportation plan is currently being updated by our long-range planner, Jay Aguilar, and his team that he's assembled, and they're doing a really good job of going out to the local governments and agencies in the rural space and getting their feedback and comments about the goals and needs for their areas. And so as you see here, that's a pretty big task to accomplish, where the purple areas are where the metropolitan planning organizations are taken care of. But that leaves the whole rural space for us to be able to plan and to coordinate with them. And so I wanted to see on the comments that we're getting when we work with our local officials. I know you can't see the comments, but more of the magnitude. A lot of times we focus on this left area, which is Park City and some of the main areas of Summit County where the population and commerce is. But also you can see on the right area, there's a growing amount of comments through the Camas, Oakley, Francis areas. And that's because they're also experiencing a lot of growth or planned growth in that area. And so it's been helpful to identify with them some critical routes, some key parallel routes to state facilities, and identify what sort of needs we can be planning on, not also just in the short term, but also in the very long term as they have planned growth in that area. And also be aware of what's going on in Wasatch County, so that we're really working with our neighbors and not drawing lines at region boundaries or county boundaries that the population doesn't really feel like when they cross back and forth. So it's really great to see and be a part of. The other part is the mayor mentioned the Summit County intersection study. So as we were working with the SR 224 bus rapid transit study, which is the left red line, they were really focused, as they should be, on the transit travel time improvement. And we recognized that there were other improvements that we could make that would help the general vehicle traffic, also their travel time also improve, and be collaborative and be able to support the bus rapid transit at the same time. Because a lot of times there's concerns that when we do improvements for general traffic, that it's inhibiting the bus rapid transit or their travel times. And so we recognized that we could look at these at the same time. So we used their models that they had already built and some of their concept designs and added on them so that we could have kind of economies of scale or and being able to improve, make it so the study was a lot less expensive. The green square is kind of where I'm going to focus in. That's the intersection as you came in. Before you got to the roundabout, there was this traffic signal that you probably turn left on. Turn left to go to Deer Valley, or turn right to go to Park City Mountain Resort. And so you can imagine it gets pretty busy, and there's been a lot of things to look at. So this is just to kind of show you the amount of brain power that's been put into this intersection with ideas, and stuff has been implemented, but at the same time, they don't want to blow up this intersection. They want to make it right sized. And so working with Summit County, working with Park City has really helped us to make sure that we're looking within the sandbox that we should be and adjusting which parameters and what they feel comfortable that we should be looking at and tweaking the dials to hone in on a good solution where we keep on making tweaks and things keep on getting implemented, and there's additional things that will be implemented with the bus rapid transit, but it's just been a good collaborative effort together with them. The Kimball Junction environmental impact statement we reviewed yesterday, but I just wanted to show you a few more pretty pictures. As you can see, it's a pretty unique area where you have traffic delay as you're going out to I-80. That's pictured here. You also have the transit station center. You can see there's a robust amount of demand, especially on those powder days, of people trying to get to that onto those bus lines, and also people walking back and forth to get to the businesses and residences in the Kimball Junction area. So that is currently going on and will be finishing in 2024. Finally, we have a lot of local studies. These are studies that are being funded outside of UDOT that we participate in. Most notably is the SR 224 bus rapid transit environmental study, but we also are collaborating in their long range transportation plan. So it's important because those projects are really helpful to our transportation, the general transportation system, where this is just north of I-80 and will provide a parallel route to I-80, so they don't need to get on that to provide some access around the Silver Creek area. In addition to that, they have Old Highway 40 next to the US 40 interchange. As this gets moved further away, that will provide critical spacing so left turn vehicles don't come back into the interchange. So these plans are complementary to each other, and it's great that we can work to each other to just make the transportation system as a whole better. The last Mayor World mentioned their transportation plan being finished, and that was an accomplishment and great feat on their behalf of being able to listen to the public and make adjustments. Also, the active transportation plan, as we work with them, this is a tunnel going across SR 248. We saw the tunnel right in front of Park City, and they do an incredible job of investing in their active transportation infrastructure, where we awarded $3.5 million to this tunnel through the TIF Active program. But this tunnel will cost more closely to $10 or $14 million. So they're heavily invested in making these very comfortable facilities, and glad that we can say, hey, we've got this funding opportunity, make sure you put in your project for it, and we work with them to make sure their highest priority is ranked according as it should be. So it's a good partnership to make sure that we're aware of what each other's needs are and finding solutions together. Are there any questions about any of these studies?
No
Yeah.
question, but this morning Rob and I were over there at Quinn's Junction there. Over there at the UDOT shed, then come back to turn right, and the line of cars was solid all the way up and around the hill from coming from Camas. We couldn't see. I mean, I think blew us away how much traffic was coming down that time of day to that intersection. So anything you can do to, for example, move that road over a little bit to the east and some other things there. We were amazed how much traffic that time of day was coming down that road.
Yeah, it is
It
growing.
was solid.
It's growing fast.
I think it was staged by the mayor to show us.
Set it up. They planned that. Yeah, there was a lot. And then, half of them were going on the freeway, but the other half coming into Park City. So it was just a lot going both directions.
Yeah. Yes, it's the growth is continuing to grow, is continuing to occur.
Any other question from Grant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job. Next item of agenda is public comments. I will give the opportunity to people in this room first, and then I will go online. If anybody wants to give a comments, please come forward, introduce yourself, and speak to the mic, please.
Hello, good morning. I'm Sarah Pierce, Deputy City Manager for Park City. I just wanted to personally thank you for your support and welcome you to Park City. The mayor did a great job giving an overview of all of our challenges and all of the great support that you have provided. But I wanted to give a shout out to the Region 2 staff. Robert Stewart and his team have been amazing to work with. And we have a lot of work to do, and we've been very collaboratively working on lots of projects and lots of challenges. And I just want to give a personal shout out to them. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We don't call it challenges. We call them unrealized opportunities. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for hosting us. Thank you. Any more from the floor? If not, I'm going to give the opportunity to people online, and I know we have one written comments that our dear friend Eileen Barron is going to read to us. Seeing none, Eileen, you have the floor, please.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair. And good morning, Commissioners. I am Eileen Barron. I'm Communications Manager for Planning and Investment at UDOT. And we received one written comment that I want to share with you today, and it is about the Little Cottonwood Canyon EIS. And so before I read it, I just want to be sure that the Commissioners are aware that we're presently in a 45-day public review and comment period for the final EIS, which is open through October 17. So UDOT is accepting comments that relate to the identified preferred alternative, new and updated information from the draft EIS to the final EIS, the assessment of the environmental impacts of the preferred primary and sub-alternatives, the proposed phasing plan, and the mitigation of potential impacts. The public may submit comments through the project website, email, written letters, voicemail, and text message. And once the public comment period has ended, UDOT will consider all comments received on the final EIS when deciding which alternative and sub-alternatives are selected in the Record of Decision, or ROD. The ROD, as the next and final step in the EIS process, will identify the final alternative and is anticipated to be issued in the winter of 2022-2023. Implementation of the selected alternative may only occur after the ROD is issued and when federal, state, and/or private funding is identified. So with that background, I want to share the written comment we received from Abby Ostrander, and her subject line is "Stop the Gondola." Abby writes, "Majority of the current residents in Utah do not want to see a gondola up Little Cottonwood. More buses, tolling booths, and carpooling can help with the congestion in Little Cottonwood. A gondola that only had one large parking lot and provides access to only 2 stops, both resorts, doesn't help the overall community. A $1 billion gondola for a shrinking 4 months out of the year isn't a logical solution. This also can create a mass safety concern if severe weather shuts this gondola down, causing thousands of people to be stuck up the canyon. Please listen to the people of Utah and stop this disaster. And that is what I have to report on today.
Thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Abby, for your comments. Anyone from the online? Seeing none, I will close the session for the comments. Thank you. Next item, agenda number 4 is Federal Highway Report, and we will have our dear friend Ivan to come and present it.
Thank you, Heather. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I'm Ivan Herrera, and I serve as the Division Administrator for the Federal Highway Administration Office here in Utah. And thank you again for giving me a few minutes to bring to your attention some items from the federal side. Let me start. So this has been all over the news lately. Basically, the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure implementation plan. I'm sorry, I'm jumping on my screen here. Oh, thanks, Heather.
What do we do without Heather?
I don't know. We all need a Heather in our life. And now it's going by itself, but well, I'll try to control it from here. Sorry about that. So basically, for this, we've made 14. Okay, Heather, stop. What's going? Am I doing something? I can keep talking while Heather takes it. For the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, the first requirement was that the states develop a plan to implement the charging station program. So we received that plan. It was reviewed not only by our office, by the joint office in DC. And I'm glad to say that Utah's plan was approved. Utah, in the feedback I'm getting from the joint office, because they're looking at all the 52 other plans that they were submitted. Utah's was one of the best plans they got. Wonderful. And a lot of the components that they included in their plan that we're sharing with other states so they can hopefully try to incorporate into their plans. So Utah was one of the first 35 states that was approved. I think it was on Tuesday. So the plans are approved. That makes the $12.5 million that we already apportioned to the state now available to be put towards the projects. So we're very good there. And thanks again to all the hard work. I know Lyle and several people at you that put into putting that plan together. So we're good there. Okay, now it's not moving, Heather. Is it a page down? Let me try page down. No. Okay. What was my next slide? I'm trying to remember now. I'm sure it's an amazing slide. So, there. It is a good slide. Okay, this is a good slide. I'm sorry. Okay. So August redistribution. This is the what happens towards the end of our fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends at the end of this month. So what we try to do is that on the federal highway side is just kind of go around and make sure we spend all the federal dollars that we can spend before they lapse. So we go around and check with all the states if they have any money sitting around that they don't think they're going to use. We kind of pull it back, and then redistribute it again to states that can use it. So this year we had about $6.2 billion in the term is obligation limitation that we had available. So so Utah received 45.2 million of that money. So very thankful for Utah to be able to have the projects ready to go and put them to put the money towards these projects. Was one of the requirements that you can get these projects obligated by the end of the fiscal year, which is in a couple of weeks. So Utah had several projects ready to go, and so the money was made available to them for that purpose. So thank you. And I know Terry and Lisa we had a couple of long discussions back in Cedar City on this.
Can I, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Ivan, can I just ask a question? This comes up every year, right?
Every year.
So we anticipate it, but we don't expect it. And so we're extra grateful for a $45 million
Yes,
bonus. I'm
and-
just making sure I understand this correctly.
And you can see by this slide, if you look at the slide, this kind of tells you historically what has come to UDOT, to Utah. You can see that red is what has come. So it's been kind of, when I got here in 2014. So right after I got here, it almost doubled. So I think I take a lot of credit for that. It went up from like 15 or 18 million to the 40s. It's been there ever since. Go ahead, Ted.
And maybe I would just add that we actually over-program with the expectation that we will get August redistribution. Otherwise, we wouldn't be ready to spend the money.
Yeah.
So we have over-programmed, and I'll look to Ben or Ivan to say how much. So some of this is new additional money we wouldn't have had otherwise, that we didn't plan on. So 33 was our break-even number. We planned for 33 million. So this would be an additional 12 million more than we planned on.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you can see by the blue graph there that, that's what every year UDOT tells, okay, this, if you give us money, this is how much we can deliver. One year they had 110 million. So basically, yeah. So they've always been able to have the projects ready to go. And the other factor is the obligation limitation, which is kind of where the limits or contract authority on some of these programs that you may not have. So, and I'll explain that on the next slide. But again, excellent work by UDOT, and we really appreciate them having the project ready to go.
And if you could just give an additional shout out to the regions, because they're the ones who are delivering the projects, and Ivan's working with them on a regular basis, trying to make sure we're filling out the program, but it's up to the regions to make sure we get those projects delivered in time. So a lot of hard work there.
Sure.
And before I go to my next slide, I do want to second what Brad described about that Echo Canyon truck stop project. Basically, he played out exactly like he described. I got a call from somebody in headquarters, don't ask me who, saying, Ivan, you that applied for this project almost 6-8 years ago and didn't get picked. We have money now. Would they be able to do it? But they have to do it. We have to get the money obligated by the end of the year. So I called Brian Adams, who was running the region at the time, and Brian checked on a couple of things. He said, yeah, you give us the money, we'll make it happen. And sure enough, there it is. So again, amazing the way they were able to make this project happen. And it's great. I've driven by it, stopped a couple of times during construction, and it's definitely a big improvement from what was there before. So thank you.
You bring it, we'll spend it.
Apparently so.
That's a new t-shirt.
That could be another t-shirt, huh?
All right, good.
So anyway, last time I presented, Commissioner Lau requested that I again explain the very complicated federal funding process what's that? Oh, for Rwanda. Okay, so for Commissioner Manlove and anybody who's never heard this, hopefully you will. This is the only way I can explain it because it's still too complicated for me. So anyway. And just so you understand, this is for the formula program, which is the bulk of the programs are the formula programs. There are a few other ponds out there that also have fish in them, but we're not going to worry about those for this presentation. So our formula program is like the catch limit on a fishing pond. Basically, when Congress passes a transportation act, which the current one is the bill. So these are usually 5 or 6 year Transportation Act. It contains a formula that is what determines how much money is provided to the states every year. So, for example, right here at the bottom, you see the programs, the National Highway Performance Program, Surface Transportation Block Grant, and the other ones. And so, $460 million is the amount apportioned to the state of Utah. So that's how we dumped our fish into the pond, 460 million fish. They're all different kinds of fishes, depending on the different kind of program. So what happens next, every year, Congress will issue an Appropriations Act, and they're currently working on one right now. It usually takes them a little long to get those done, and that's where they set our we use the term obligation limitation. How much of those $460 million can we actually spend for that year? So it's like setting a catch limit on a pond. So they set a catch limit, and the catch limit for this year was for this. Well, I'm talking about 2022. Was 414 million. So you had 460 fish, but you can only catch 414 million of them. But you can catch any kind of fish as long as you don't exceed the catch limit. And there's going to be some fish left over for the following year. So the fish keep the leftover fish, the uncut fish, keep adding up as we move on. So what happens with August redistribution? We were able to raise the obligation limitation or increase the catch limit so we can go back and catch some of those fish that we still have left over in the pond. Or we add some more fish from the other fishermen who were not as good as we were catching. So we take their fish and somehow get them over here into our pond. So then we have these extra fish. So this year we get the $45 million, which actually brings it right back to very close to what was initially in the formula apportionment. So 460 million. So give or take, we get pretty close. I have to say these fish they only have a 4-year lifespan, so you got to catch them within 4 years. And that's what we try to do with the other state. We see that those fish are getting old, about to die, so we get them and bring them to the pond where they can be caught real quick and put to the project. So not sure what else I can say. Any questions on this process? Hopefully you can all understand how the federal highway funding system works, process works. I do. You're welcome. Hopefully, Commissioner Manlove, now you understand how this very complicated process works. I want to mention a couple other things that are going on our end. The emergency relief work with the floods taking place down in the Moab area. We are in the process. We received a letter of intent from you to apply for emergency relief funds, and we are in the process of our people are going down there and assessing the damage, determining how much and the extent. And then we will be issuing an eligibility determination as to whether or not we will help provide emergency relief funding for those repairs. The STIPS is the State Transportation Improvement Program or Implementation Plan. I'm sorry, and basically this is where it must be approved by Federal Highways and Federal Transit Administration every 4 years. Here in Utah, we do it every year, and so it's got to be approved by the end of the fiscal year. And we're currently the plans in our office and in FDA's office, and we're in the process of reviewing that and in order to provide our approval. Because if we don't approve it, it kind of shuts down everything. So we gotta make sure we get that done, and we're in the process of doing that. We don't anticipate any problems there. The end of year obligations, again, this is related to some of the stuff I mentioned before with those fishes. We just want to make sure that we get every dollar that needs to be obligated here in the state obligated. So we spend that, this last month basically working with you, that's financial people and program and project managers, making sure that we get all these projects into the system and approved in time. So it's got to be done by the end of our fiscal year. And a couple of kudos, we did get so there with MAP 21 back in 2012. Put in place a requirement or is a transportation performance management. So there's certain measures that states must meet in order to in order to not be subject to penalties. But the penalties don't really take the money out of the state. The penalties really just require that you spend more money in certain areas. So one of them is that the bridge deck area on National Highway System bridges must be but bridge deck area in poor condition on National Highway System bridges must be below 10%. And so we received our report this year and Utah's was at 0.01%. And it was the lowest in the nation. So again, I just wanted to mention that and express my gratitude for UDOT to doing such a good job in managing their bridge program. It's amazing when I saw that. And it's 0.01. I don't think you can get to zero based on the way they calculate it, because I went and looked at the numbers in my own calculations, and it really should be 0.0, but somehow the way the formula works, you get 0.1 no matter what. So it's
Close enough.
It's impossible to get to zero apparently. So, and yeah, great work, and we really appreciate all their efforts. And yeah, the penalty would have been that. I mean, if they didn't meet the 10%, then they would have to put more money towards bridge projects. So, and these are the two slides that I normally finish with, just updating where we are with the different discretionary grants. We've pretty much gone through, and all the green ones are the ones that my agency, Federal Highways, will be involved in. And we're pretty much gone through and issued all the funding opportunities for those grants. So we're good there. And this one is for anybody watching, if they want to just learn more about the different grants that are out there for the different communities and how to apply for them and all that, they can go to this site and get all that information. So with that, I will conclude my presentation, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have for me.
Any question from commission?
And I will say, last time I did this presentation, I went back to my office, somebody had filled it with inflatable fish all over the place.
Well, you tell a good fish story.
All right. All right.
Thank you.
And I didn't catch any fish when we were in Logan. I tried and thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Bridget, for being here with us. Next item is number 5, UDOT scoreboard. Carmen Swanwick and Troy Peterson will lead us. And Carmen, for your information, while you were gone for 2 months, Lisa did a good job.
I know, I asked her if she wanted to do it again today. It was a no.
No.
All right. Hello, commissioners. I'm Carmen Swanwick. I'm the project development director. Thanks for having me here today. I'm going to give you the project development update and where we are with project delivery.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. So given our status right now, we have 4 past due projects. 3 of those will be advertised in the next month, and 1 will be in the next year because we're still under working through railroad agreements at this time. But you'll see at least those 3 come off at it in the next update. And we have at least another 46 coming within the next 60 days. So this current fiscal year, we've advertised 29 projects. We're hitting our goal about 85% on time, and just over $175 million in just this fiscal year. And again, that started in July. So in the last month, we've advertised 17 projects and 135 million, just over 135 million is what has been done in the last month. And here's the number of projects, and you can see that it's pretty standard. The 4 are the red that I mentioned earlier in the update. And you can also see here in October is where we really start looking at next year in our scoping and looking at what future projects will be coming. Going to move down into construction contracts. Right now we have 173 construction contracts out. We've paid out just about 1.5 billion on those in September, with about just over 500 million remaining in those contracts. And that's just for September, which is really in line with, how we've been performing. getting down into contractor payments. Again, you can see the trend. You know, we always are expending more work. A lot of work is happening in the summers, in July and August. You'll see September go back up when we finally get those numbers. But it really tracks the trend that we typically do for our construction projects. Getting down into our engineer's estimate, and with the contract award. And you can see we're trending pretty well. I think, you know, I gave the presentation on what was happening with all the construction costs. And so you can see we have gone back and we've revisited a lot of those estimates. And we're in line with, you know, what's being projected in the award, the bid amounts that we are getting in. So I think we're really in line with that as we have revisited a lot of those estimates.
Carmen, what kind of contingency are you using now under this inflationary market?
I think we're about 10%.
Still, okay.
And that's a little higher than we would typically do. But given all the unknowns that's happening right now, we think that's probably the best.
Okay, thank you.
And that is what I have to present today. If there's any other question, I'd be happy to answer them.
Did a good job, obviously, because nobody has questions.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Troy Peterson, Operations Director, UDOT here. I get the opportunity to update you on our zero fatality strategic direction goals. One thing I'd like to just start with is showing you our fatality rate. You'll notice that that number is currently at 0.94. It's down from last year. The only reason that number that's dipping is our VMT is obviously rising. As of the end of July, we were at 19 billion vehicle miles traveled for statewide, which is, I mean, if you looking at that number, we're going to be far exceed our number if that continues on that trend throughout the rest of the year. So with that, I'll jump down to the our traffic fatalities. Currently, we're sitting at 223 fatalities for the year. And, you know, I've mentioned this before, but our target for reduction, and that's based on a 3-year average, we want a 2.5% reduction. We're not meeting that. Our current target was at 185. We're roughly about 21% higher than that target with what's happened so far this year. And so one thing I like to update you all on is the number of vulnerable users that are a part of that fatality count. Right now we have, of those 223, 89 of those were in our vulnerable user category, which we are classifying as pedestrians, bicyclists, and motorcyclists. We had 39 pedestrians, 14 bicyclists, and 36 motorcyclists to date. So I'm gonna jump over here real quick to the zero fatalities. I gave you an update last month of where the progress, where we were numbers wise in the middle of the the 100 deadliest days. And now that Labor Day's come and gone, and within that time period is gone, you can see that we ended up at 97 fatalities in this last summer, down a little bit from 2021. Nothing to brag about, but we did have, I do have some statistics that I'd like to share with you on that, on the or the 100 deadliest days. Roughly 70% of those fatalities were males, and one thing I forgot to mention, 40% of our fatalities is about the average of number of vulnerable users that make up that total number, and that was pretty consistent with our 100 deadliest days. We had a total of, it looks like 36 vulnerable user fatalities through the 100 deadliest days. 10 of those were pedestrians, 19 motorcyclists, and 7 bicyclists. which was roughly 37. So right around that 40% of our total for that time period. Some of the behavioral pieces that went along with that, we had 28 of those were classified as speed-related fatalities. 36 of them both were impaired, and roughly 20 were individuals that were unrestrained, so not wearing a seatbelt. So yeah, that just shows you an update from our zero fatalities, 100 deadliest days. And I just wanted to kind of show the comparison from 2021 to 2022. To date, we're at 223, and last year at this time we were at 225. Large numbers there to we need to go that direction, right? Serious traffic injuries. Currently, we're sitting at roughly 1,019. Our reduction target for that is 881. So we're still targeting. We're still about 16% higher on that reduction goal. So crashes, injuries, fatalities are all trending on an upward direction. At least the total number of crashes is a little closer to our target reduction, but still higher than what we would like to see. That's what I had for you today. But in closing, I do like to remind everybody for our 5 behaviors for safe driving, and that is to drive buckled, focused, alert, sober, and calm.
Still think you have to put that to music so we can all say it in the right word.
Well, if we'd like to have Commissioner Evans, maybe we could get if he brings it.
I'll get with you.
Wow, there's a challenge.
Yeah.
Troy, this morning on the radio, television, it said that one study showed Utah had the rudest drivers in America.
Yeah,
Did anybody else catch that?
Yeah.
I don't know what that was based on, but that wouldn't help us if that's in fact anywhere near the case.
Okay, I confess it was me. I would just use the bad language.
Well, anyway, I don't know if you'd seen that report or we were part of that study or.
I haven't seen that report.
That was just this morning, I guess. I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Yeah. Well, it's just.
There's some work to be done there, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you say impaired, does that include distracted also in those categories?
No, the impaired is drugs, alcohol.
Under some influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in California 2 weeks ago at an intersection at the Oakland Airport, and you could see it was going to happen. This person was turning in front of somebody else. Person didn't stop. Crash. You just want to say stop. I mean, it's epidemic. I don't know why they weren't paying attention. They both jumped out and started yelling at each other. It was California. I get that, but still, you can see this coming. And with the motorcyclists doing silly things on the roads and bicyclists not paying attention.
Yeah.
And it's a tragedy because those are
definitely
by and large young lives snuffed out. So thanks for your work on that. I'm not going to drive stupid. That's what I've got on my.
For all of us. So Troy, I know that you had the UDOT and the UHB had a joint meetings and about the zero fatality. What was the outcome of that meeting? What kind of recommendation comes from them? Do you know?
I may have to call phone a friend on that one. I'm not sure if Elizabeth's here today or online. I'm not privy to that.
Okay. We'll wait for the next month. That's okay.
Elizabeth, we can see Elizabeth.
No problem. Yes, please.
So what efforts, Troy, are you doing to educate drivers? But, how do we go about helping drivers understand? I mean, we've had some tragic fatalities at the beginning of the school year, and our communities working on educating drivers, say school is starting, and please watch for kids.
Yeah, I mean, we have our zero fatalities campaign, and we get back to school. I mean, we have a team that's out currently combing schools and going back to school nights and attending the I forget the term. What, Robert? Parent nights. Thank you. The parent nights effort to help educate students and their parents on safe driving behaviors. things to be watchful for. And I know that some of our individuals that are working out on that team are out currently traveling, meeting those schools today, over the next 3 or 4 weeks, especially because we know this is that time of frame we're getting back to school, and it's a great time to start reminding parents and students.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
You bet.
Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is consent agenda. Ivan Harder will come and present that, and he will also present number 7, program development.
Morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning.
Item number 6, the consent agenda. Included in the packet of materials contains the meetings or the minutes for the August 12th commission meeting, the August 11th staff update meeting, as well as the city area tour also on August 11th. This month there are no projects that we're reducing. Historically, there's a list of projects. This month we do not have a list for you to review. So it is just the minutes from the August meetings. Request today is a motion to approve the August 11th, 2022 Commission Staff Update Meeting, the August 11th, 2022 Commission Tour, and the August 12th, 2022 Utah Transportation Commission Meeting minutes as detailed.
I so move. It was an excellent visit in every way. So thank you. Putting it on paper.
I'll second.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, clarifications, edit? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Beginning on item number 7, 7A-1, 4100 North over North Fork Ogden River Bridge replacement. This is a program and scope change and a funding addition. And before we begin, one thing that I'd like to follow up with Federal Highways, with Ivan's presentation on obligation limitation, the additional funding that we received, the 33 million we said was our programming break even, we received 45. That $12 million worth of projects, we just slide from a previously approved year. We just slide those forward. So there are no new projects that get obligated without the commission through commission approval. One thing that we just want to make sure how that obligation ties in.
So you're using the old fish first.
We use the old fish first.
Good. Thank you.
Okay. Back to 7A1. Program and scope change. At the April 29th, 2022 Transportation Commission meeting, the commission approved the bridge list, a list of 90 bridges that were prioritized based on condition and load restrictions, making them eligible for funding in the Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act under the Bridge Formula Program. The following locally owned Weber County bridges are on the approved Bridge Formula Program structure list: the North Fork Bridge east of Liberty and the Warren Canal Bridge on 5900 West in Weber County. The department proposes to transfer a project PIN 17371, the replacement of the North Fork Bridge structure, from the 2023 Structures Program to the Bridge Formula Program. This structure is currently in poor condition. In addition, it is proposed to the replacement of the Warren Canal structure to be added to this project. This structure is currently on load fair condition. The project value has been identified to reflect the addition of this bridge structure, as well as an increased material and labor cost for the replacement of the structure. Bundling of these two bridges will reduce overall costs. Both structures are on the federal aid highway system. Therefore, this project will require a local agency match under the Bridge Formula Program. Weber County is in support of the project and is able to provide the necessary match. Located here on our map, Weber County We included some pictures of the North Fork Bridge here.
That's ugly.
And the Warren Canal Bridge. Our request today is a motion to approve the program and scope change and the funding addition to the 4100 North over North Fork Ogden River Bridge replacement project as detailed.
Chair will make that motion.
Thank you.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any further questions, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item 7A-1 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Second item, 7A-2, is the Sandy City East Bridge replacements. This is a new project from the Bridge Formula Program. The justification introduces the same program, the Bridge Formula Program. The two bridges we'll be discussing is the Willow Green Circle Bridge over Little Cottonwood Creek and the Cobble Canyon Lane Bridge over Little Cottonwood Creek. Sandy City began the design of these replacements prior to the Bridge Formula Program funding and is in process of completing the design. As a result, funding of the design is not covered by the Bridge Formula Program. However, once the design is complete, the project will be advertised and constructed on the Bridge Formula Program. These structures are located off of the federal aid highway system and are currently in poor condition and load restricted below legal load. This project would not require a local match in the Bridge Formula Program, and Sandy City is in support of the project. Located here, Sandy City, two structures. Included are pictures of the Willow Green Circle Bridge and the Cobble Canyon Lane Bridge.
Oh, that looks ugly.
Our request today is a motion to approve the Sandy City East Bridge replacements project as detailed.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Go ahead, please.
Just a quick question. The reason the design part of this was just a timing thing, that's why the design part could not be funded?
It was
As part
done
of-
before our authorization date, our
Okay.
federal
So
authorization.
are we going to find other projects that we might have that same limitation on?
And phone a friend and see if there are others in that same scenario. Any ideas? Sorry, Cheryl.
Just wondering kind of what to anticipate.
Good morning, Cheryl
Morning.
Hirsch, UDOT Structures. We are in the process of the 90 bridges that we brought to you that are on the list. We're in the process of visiting with all the locals. So we sent out letters by mail, by email, and then we're making visits to meet with each of them so that they know that what we have on the program, what we have planned. And so we're trying to have those conversations with them to make sure if they have anything in the works that they know that this is a funding source for them.
That's great. Okay, thank you.
If they don't have the matching funds, Ivan, can they refuse repairs?
They could, if there's no if you know, these particular bridges are on the, because they're on the the highway federal aid system, it's 100% federally funded. The previous one in Weber County, because they were on, there was a match required, the 6.77%. If they didn't want that to be done, then they could, well, I don't know whether, I think there would be strong conversation. If it's in
Okay.
poor condition, I would struggle to think that they wouldn't want to
Right.
move forward.
If it is not safe, obviously we have to do something about it, right?
Yeah.
Cheryl's coming. She's coming.
You're gonna save me.
Well, I'm not sure I heard the question completely, but in our conversations with them, we're offering this. They don't have to
Okay.
address any of these. And we're telling them the parameters of what the money can cover. And if there are things that are outside, if they're sort of like aesthetic betterments that do not fall within the rule, kind of advising them if those things, like a couple of the agencies we talked to are looking at upgrading routes to connect their communities. And so there'll be capacity improvements, which this funding can't afford. And so we're working to them to see the timing, if we can at least cover the portion that meets the needs of this program.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, please.
I would make a motion, we approve.
We have the motion. We have already
Oh, did
motions.
we?
Yeah, we have a motion second. We just kind of question.
I'm sorry, I'll.
That's
do it.
okay. No problem. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 7A-2 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. 7A-3, SR 201, the 3200 West Bridge Deck Preservation is a program scope and change and a funding addition. This structure carries on SR 201 over 3200 West in Salt Lake County in Region 2. Built in 1980, this structure has been a vital part of the infrastructure network in the area, with an annual average daily traffic of 88,000 vehicles and approximately 20% of truck traffic. As part of the 2021 STIP, a project was approved to perform bridge deck preservation treatments on the structure in an attempt to extend the service life of the facility. The project was planned to take place in 2024. However, recent inspection reports indicate that the existing bridge deck has deteriorated beyond what can be addressed with a preservation project. In addition, the local maintenance shed continues to spend a significant amount of funds each year to repair various deficiencies that impact the traveling public. It is proposed that the scope of this project be modified to include a full bridge deck replacement and be moved to the 2023 Structures Rehabilitation and Replacement Program. A new deck will provide a new riding surface and an estimated service life of 30 years. Located here on our map on 201. Some examples of some of the repair work that gets done periodically or continually. Our request today is a motion to approve the scope change and funding addition to the SR 201 Bridge Deck Preservation Project as detailed.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, please.
I would make a motion, we approve.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, concern, comments?
A very busy spot.
It is. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7A-3 is approved.
Thank you. 7A-4, US 89 Aurum and Pleasant Grove Pavement Preservation is a funding addition. The project scope of the US 89 Aurum and Pleasant Grove Pavement Preservation Project is to mill 1.5 inches of pavement and resurface the US 89 from 100 north to 800 north, and a pavement treatment from 2000 north in Aurum to 220 south in Pleasant Grove. The estimate has been updated and reflects an increase in construction cost. The majority of the cost increase was on the asphalt and concrete items. Other items that impacted the estimate were concrete related, such as concrete utility rings, ADA ramps, sidewalk, curb, and gutter. The addition of the $775,000 is needed in order to advertise this project. Located here on our map, our request today is a motion to approve the funding addition to the US 89 Aurum and Pleasant Grove Pavement Preservation Project as detailed.
I'd move for approval.
Thank you.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7A-4 is approved. Thank you.
Yeah.
Our next item is the Geneva Road Railroad Structure MSE Wall Repair is a funding addition from the Transportation Solutions Program. On June 13th, 2022, the northwest mechanically stabilized earth wall, MSE wall, of the railroad structure on Geneva Road on Aurum and Vineyard was observed to have a section leaning outward. On June 14th, it was observed that the section of wall had fallen and a corresponding amount of soil behind the face of the wall had fallen with it. UDOT Structures and Geotechnical Divisions visited the site to assess the damage and to determine a repair. The sidewalk is closed until the repair is completed. In June, the Transportation Commission approved funding of the project with $700,000. On September 13th, construction bids were opened and the construction costs came in 165% over the engineer's estimate, with only one bidder. This increase reflects project risks related to bidding prior to full investigation of the extent of the damage and preparing a structural design for approval. Given the nature of the emergency project, Region 3 proposes adding funds to award the contract. Again, from the June meeting, the location here on our map. And the image is also from that June meeting.
Remember we saw that on our tour, and it was falling as we were driving by. So I moved for approval.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. I have a question, Ivan. Could the UDOT rebid this or the open up for the, again, estimates from the other bidders? Now the price a little bit gone up?
Rob Clayton, Region 3 Director. We could rebid it, but it's not real likely that we would get additional bidders. Plus it would add time and we're a little nervous about a delay. In addition, the sidewalk that's closed is normally used by kids to get to a school in the area. And so we feel some urgency to get the project finished.
Okay, thank you.
So what this probably means, Rob, is they got we thought it was gonna take, you got people, the engineers looking at that, realized more stabilization had to take place and things like that inside behind the wall there.
It was just a little bigger than what we had originally thought. Nobody did anything wrong or was wrong. It just, we didn't understand the extent of it when we put the bid out in a attempt to get the response out there quickly. So.
So we have a motion and the second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item number 7A-5 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item, 7A-6, US 6 milepost 200 is a bridge right fix project. It's a funding removal and scope change. The scope of the US 6 milepost 200 bridge ride fix project is to repair the rough ride over the wildlife bridges as it approaches the railroad structure near milepost 200 in Spanish Fork Canyon. During the design of the project, it became apparent that the structural repair was significantly higher than originally scoped and estimated. Region 3 and the Structures Division proposed to install signage on the approach of the structure to mitigate the uneven pavement instead of adding the scope and reconstruct the abutments of the structure that would be required. The estimate to address the reconstruction is currently in excess of $5 million. So just to clarify, the money that would be left over would be used to address that signage. Located here on our map. Our request today is a motion to change the scope and remove funding from the US 6 milepost 200 bridge ride fix project as detailed.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any questions, comments, clarifications? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7A-6 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7A-7, I-15 widen exit 10 to exit 13 and an interchange at milepost 11. It's a funding addition and scope change. A concept study for I-15 from milepost 0 to milepost 16 identified a sequence of projects to address the traffic demands on the corridor. Previous projects have widened I-15 to 3 lanes from milepost 4 to 16, with the exception of this project and the section from milepost 6 to milepost 8, which is programmed for completion in the next 3 years. This project will add a third lane from exit 10 to exit 13 and an interchange at approximately milepost 11. An updated estimate shows additional needs for funding for the following items: environmental requirements such as noise walls, just short of $5 million increase, construction inflation such as asphalt, steel, and concrete, 5.7 million, and right-of-way and utility cost increases of approximately $3 million. Example of our map here. The potential interchange. Our request today is a motion to add funding to the I-15 widen exit 10 to exit 13 and interchange 11 as detailed.
For the commission information, this is from the Green Spring exit to 10, which is a new main street in Washington City. Okay.
So does this complete 3 lanes through St. George?
Not quite.
Not quite, but almost.
Almost, but not quite. We still have some segments.
Kirk Thornock, UDOT Region 4 Deputy Director. We will have one other segment from 6 to 8 that will not be 3 lanes, but is programmed, that we are currently working on the environmental document for that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Yes.
Mr. Chair, I think it's dandy to welcome. Dandy, is that okay? Can I say that? Dandy to have Kirk as our
New deputy
director. It's nice to see you again.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7A-7 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 7A-8 is a new project, SR 143 slope stabilization and flood repair. It's a new funding or a new project out of the statewide transportation solutions funding. We did highlight that the Protect funds, one of the new formula funds from the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act, would be used on this project. Parowan Canyon continues to experience flooding and debris flows within the canyon due to the Bryan Head fire and resulting burn scar from 2017. The flooding has eroded the existing channel in many locations along SR 143 and is threatening the roadway. Several pipe culverts do not allow debris to pass, which causes additional flooding. The project scope is to replace and upsize four culvert crossings and stabilize slopes from milepost 4.2 to 4.4 and from milepost 9.4 to 12.3. Located here on our map, the 2 different sections of slope stabilization. And then some images of the roadway, the slopes along the roadway.
Almost gone.
Yeah. Dangerous.
I would like to call on our deputy director to explain how quickly they got the funding and the process of the EIS in place, please.
Well, thank you. Definitely want to give kudos to our Region 4 staff, our UDOT environmental staff, our advertising staff, and our consultant partners as we're addressing these flooding and debris flows for shutting down SR 143 for every week in August. We came up with this project ready to advertise in less than 2 weeks. And it took a tremendous, partnerships and collaboration, and we're able to do so contingent on approval today. We appreciate them greatly.
Thank you. And Commissioner Law and I would drive that road, and several years we have had several of the debris close 1 lane at least of the I-15.
I think this is interesting. This kind of becomes a poster child for
Yep.
this new fund. So are you ready for a motion?
Yes.
Because I
please.
can do so enthusiastically.
Thank you.
Let's see, you want to state a motion, please?
I sure will. Our request today is a motion to approve the SR 143 slope stabilization and flood repair project as detailed.
No,
Enthusiastically moved.
I accept that enthusiastically.
Enthusiastically.
Oh, this could be a long meeting.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments? Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 7A-8 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that comment from Kirk, this was an opportunity in the August commission meeting. We received word from Federal Highways that if we could increase our request for August redistribution, that request would most likely be granted. This was a project that was evaluated, so we were out in the outdoor conference room, I think as Commissioner Locke called it, at that meeting, identifying this potential project and the use of these funds from the statewide transportation solutions. So within that amount of time, this has been done. Bob Pelly, our STIP coordinator, is sitting behind me. He's been waiting for that motion. He's executed the change, and then the rest of the program finance team and Federal Highways is ready. So I guess this is their signal to go make that. It was great.
That's right.
This was an exciting project. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, everyone else. Go ahead, please.
So when is that contract?
Once you get
I thought I was off the hook for a second. I believe it'll be the spring before we can get going on that, just because of the winter coming up. Because it will advertise and it probably take about 60 days to get somebody on board.
And the reason I asked that question is that it looks to me like if we don't get something done before the spring runoff cycle, we could have more days.
Yeah, we plan on to address that early spring. Our maintenance crews have been out there helping to stabilize it currently so that we are prepared for the winter.
Thank you.
Our next item, 7A-9, is the Protect Resiliency Improvement Planning Project. This is a new project. The Infrastructure Investments and Jobs Act established the Protect formula funds to protect surface transportation assets by making them more resilient to current and future weather events and natural disasters. Communities through resilience in improvements and strategies and natural infrastructure. The Protect Formula program includes a set aside for resilience-related planning and requires each state to use at least 2% of its funding for specific types of resilience-related planning activities, such as developing a resiliency improvement plan, resiliency planning, pre-design and design, technical capacity building, or evacuation planning and preparation. The state of Utah is scheduled to receive approximately $12.5 million of federal funding each year for the next 5 years of the formula program. UDOT is requesting approval to use 2% of the 2022 and 2023 Protect formula program funds to develop a resilience improvement plan and begin other planning and development activities. An additional benefit to the states is that if a resilience improvement plan, or the RIP, is in place, only a 10%, up to 10% may be reduced from the required non-federal match. Currently, this program is an 80-20 match. The RIP also helps to meet the new IIJA requirements to address the resiliency in the Transportation Asset Management Plan. Our request today is a motion to approve the Protect Planning Activities Project as detailed.
Yes. Thank you.
I'll second.
So motion and a second. Any other questions? Yes, please.
Right. Can you describe a little bit about how those monies will be used? I mean, will we be hiring contractors to help create that plan? Do we have 5 years of, do we bring an employee on for 5 years? How will we actually spend those dollars?
Most of that will be used through consultant contracts. We do have, like this last line talks about the transportation asset management. Right now, that group's being tapped to lead that effort to develop the resiliency improvement plan and where we go during that development. Do you add anything else to that? I mean, we'll just be utilizing a lot of consultant staff.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Any other questions? All in favor of this project, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 7A-9 is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next item, 7A-10, is information only. It's a funding addition for local government funds. The 2820 South to 7440 West to 7736 West project. The scope of this project is to construct a new sidewalk, curb and gutter on the north side of 2820 South Street between 7440 West and 7336 West. The sidewalk will improve safety for students walking to and from Lake Ridge Elementary and Ethos Academy Charter School. This project was initially approved and funded in 2019. Current project estimates show that additional funding is needed as a result of inflation in the cost of labor and materials. The additional project funding will be provided as shown below. Wasatch Front Regional Council will add a little over $815,000 from unprogrammed Transportation Alternatives Program, and Magna Township will add about $300,000 of local government funds. This TIP amendment was approved at the Wasatch Front Regional Council Transcom meeting on August 18th, 2022. Located here on our map. And again, this is a information only item.
Thank you. We love our partners.
They've been busy.
Okay, our next item, 7B, is the high priority corridor resolution. This is an information only item, as we discussed in the staff meeting. This item will be brought before the commission as in a proposed or draft state today, and next month we anticipate bringing this forward, a request for a motion. The Utah Transportation Code 725402 states that the planning and preservation of transportation corridors is a public purpose. Further, Utah Transportation Code 725033 directs the Utah Transportation Commission to designate transportation corridors as high priority transportation corridors for transportation corridor preservation purposes. The UTC 01-05 policy states that the Transportation Commission through resolution shall amend, add, or remove designated high priority transportation corridors. The resolution shall include recommendations identified by the Department of Transportation for amendment, addition to, or removal from the list of designated high priority transportation corridors, as well as a current list of UTC approved high priority transportation corridors. A copy of the approved resolution shall be sent to communities and municipalities in which the high priority transportation corridors are designated. The department identified potential modifications for the high priority corridor list. The list of proposed changes are attached. The department proposes to highlight the potential changes in the September commission meeting and present the list of approval for the October commission meeting. I'll skip past the motion showing the resolution, the 22-01 resolution. Included in the draft version of the proposal are the strikeouts highlighting the changes being requested. Shown here. Down a little bit on page 2. Again, there's no motion request for this month, because it's information only.
Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good job, Ivan. Before Charles comes forward for the next item, I would like to recognize Chris Robinson, the chair of the Summit County Council. If you wish to say anything, please do so. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I sit back and look at this great process of democracy in action, and you, many of whom I've known or recently met in your years of public service in trade centers or legislative matters or lots of other things, and these two able women over here that are the deputy directors and the great people at Region 2. I mainly want to thank you today and welcome you to Summit County and to Park City. I had a fun hour-and-a-half tour with some of you yesterday where we got to look at some of the projects happening, and I was sent with 2 swag bags. I don't know how you split those up. I was thinking maybe that Lisa and Terry needed to get them.
There's 2 commissioners didn't get.
Okay, I've got 2. So as was stated, I'm the chair of the Summit County Council. I'm also one of the trustees for High Valley Transit. we've had a great relationship with UDOT Region 2 and are very thankful for your help in helping us enhance transportation in the Wasatch back here. You know, we are home to about 5 billion a year in economic development that benefits the whole state. And we have a lot of congestion and traffic and transit problems. Most recently, you've helped us with $40 million in funding for our bus rapid transit and for our new High Valley Transit facility. And that it has allowed us to get another 25 million from the federal government from the RAISE grant for our bus rapid transit, which is to put 2 lanes, one on either side of SR 224, running from Kimball Junction to the transit center near here. And that is huge. I want to say that the county is not here with its hand out. We are here to partner with you, and I think we've demonstrated that, and we want to continue. We have resources, not enough, obviously, to do things on our own, but we are here to help and appreciate your collaboration with us. One of the big lifts that we have in the future is going to be to rebuild the Kimball Junction I-80 interchange. That's in the works, and some of you heard a little bit about that yesterday, and we look forward to working with you on that. But to not make Commissioner Menlove's prognostication of a long meeting longer, I'm not going to say a lot more other than to thank you again and to your great staff for the partnership, I'll call it, that we have with you. And I've got these 2 bags. Who are the recipients?
Well, we have 3 now. We have Commissioner Fantassa didn't get one, Commissioner
Who's the
Kramer and
bag now?
Commissioner Donald. Okay, there you go. And then you can make it.
Ladies first.
That's right. I'll have to negotiate. We're so proud of Park City. I mean, it's a jewel for us in the state.
I hope you've enjoyed your stay.
Yeah.
Not color-wise, but it's greenery.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Next item is number 8, and thank you for your patience, Charles. Corridor preservation.
Are y'all able to read the budget obligation sheet? Is it zoomed in enough?
Yes.
Okay. So as we typically start, we'll go through an update on the status of the Marta Dillery Corridor Preservation Fund. We had a balance forward of just under 44.8 million. Motor vehicle rental tax revenue, just over 850,000. Property management rental revenue, seems a little low. I'm guessing that's a function of we've got to get caught up because of the end of the fiscal year and the comptroller's office gets very, very busy. So I suspect we will see a bump in that next month. Same with property management expenses. Combining income and expenses, we move forward with a fund balance of just under 45.6 million. We're working on a fund reimbursement for some property that a project is acquiring of just over 700,000. We hope to see that again in the next month or so. We have a report on the funds obligated but not yet dispersed of just under 12.9 million. You'll note 2 of those have a de-obligation on them. That's what we will consider today. And then just by way of an update, because it's hard to keep up and stay in compliance with the Open and Public Meetings Act. The Sitla transaction of just over $5 million has actually closed. They've been a great partner. Their development partner, the Ninegret Group, has also been really wonderful to work with as we moved through. Sorry, my computer just went blank. Pardon me. One of the de-obligation items is already under contract, the O'Brien parcel, as well as the Riley parcel down here on SR 73. So Diana Lecca continues to make great progress managing all of these acquisitions. Factoring in those obligated funds, the fund balance is just over 32.7 million. As I mentioned, we have 2 de-obligation requests today that would increase the total back to 656,000, with those acquisitions being handled by the now funded projects, which would put us at a fund balance of just under 33.4 million. Are there any questions?
I just have my usual congratulations for Charles and Diane and your staff. Very, very responsive on the tough issues. Every one of these things, we've got title issues, appraisal issues, etc. So congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner. We do our best. The fund tracking sheet, just to give you a sense of what the income has looked like, it does seem like we've recovered from the pandemic. Folks are traveling again and renting vehicles again. Next month, we should see some reconciliation on the accounts that the state treasurer manages for us. The little item that shows in green here every August. So we'll look forward to that next month. Moving into the first item, we have 2 items on 1800 North in Clinton. That's SR 37. That project made it onto the STIP at the beginning of the fiscal year. As a result of that, the parcels are no longer eligible to be acquired through the Corridor Preservation Fund. They're now under threat of eminent domain and eligible for a variety of additional benefits under our relocation process. I really like the maps. I think it tells us as much as the words. I'm going to scroll down. This first parcel is something that y'all approved on April 29th, 2022. This is a home owned by the Geisler family at 1823 North, 810 West. It's approximately 1.46 acres. It's vacant land. You can see it here. And it had appraised for $246,000. As I noted, with the funded project, they're now eligible to be acquired using project funds. It gives them the opportunity to go to the property rights ombudsman if they want to challenge value. This is vacant land, so we wouldn't expect any relocation benefits to be available to them. But if they happen to store some things, we would also help them move that, which would be an additional opportunity for the property owners. Our request today would be for your approval to de-obligate the $246,000 from the Corridor Preservation Fund. I apologize. I noticed at the bottom of the fact sheet, we said obligate. I'm not going to scroll to it because I'm embarrassed that I made a typo. So please note that the motion needed for approval should be approval for the de-obligation from the revolving loan fund as presented. Apologies for that.
So moved.
Thank
Move
you.
that. Yep.
Okay. Moved on second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8, A is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8B, also on SR 37 or 1800 North in Clinton. This is the O'Brien parcel that we actually, through the project, have already placed under contract at 1818 North, 550 West. It had appraised for $410,000. Get down to the map. One's a little more zoomed out. The O'Brien parcel that we just considered is up in this area here. I hope y'all can see my mouse moving around there. The O'Briens are a little bit further east, closer to I-15. It had appraised for $410,000. This is a residence, and there would be significant relocation benefits available to the homeowners. I suspect that's why they were eager to get under contract under the project as opposed to under the fund. And our request today would be to de-obligate the $410,000 from the Corridor Preservation Fund.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 8B is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Next item agenda is number 9, State Infrastructure Bank, and Lyle McMullen will present that.
I know he's looking more like a banker every time he comes.
How do you feel about that, Wyatt?
I don't know. Let's try to play one on TV.
I hope there is.
Present from there.
Chairman, Commissioners, Lyle McMillan, Director of Strategic Investments, UDOT. Today, I have two applications for your consideration for loans for the State Infrastructure Bank. Actually, where is the, oh, I can just go online, can't I? Am I for the budget? I go to UDOT. Excellent. Before we get into the actual applications, it's important to show you how much money we have to spend. All right. So as of this month, just a really brief history. The fund has been capitalized with just over $85 million in the almost 20-year history of the State Infrastructure Bank. 5.5 million of that is additional from interest earned from loans outstanding and repayments. And when you all of those different fees and incomes and outgoes, we have $10.3 million that is in the balance officially. We closed on one loan this past month. It was the Mill Creek loan from the $30 million base budget. And so there's also a $5 million reserve that's been in there for several years now for a future potential Utah Inland Port State Infrastructure Bank loan. And so when those are all factored in, the unobligated balance for us to talk about today is $5.3 million. And as luck would have it, we have $5.3 million in applications today. All right. Now we can talk about the actual applications. Back in August, on the same day, within the same hour, we received two applications, one from Sandy City for an application to participate in a public-private partnership to invest in a parking structure. As you can see here, it's behind that Hilton Garden Inn off of Sago Lily across the street from the New Health Center Theater. And I think it's the Caroloa headquarters that you see right off the east side of I-15. And that's going to help with the development of their downtown City Hall area. And they're asking for $5.3 million, but because then the other application is asking for just under $1 million, there's not enough money today. And so they're asking for the ability to use the flexibility in the rule that requires them to close within 180 days of an approved loan application. And so that would put it out into the end of the first quarter of 2023. And by then, at the end of this year, we anticipate receiving about $3 million worth of loan payments. Let's see here. 3.5 almost, 3.4 million. And so they'd like to take advantage of those anticipated income and hold off on closing on their loan until the first quarter of next year, which will allow for both of these applications to be approved today.
There's a question, Lyle.
Yes, sir.
A question I have is, how many other applications do we have in line?
0. These are at the time, they're first come, first served. And so when we get them, if they meet the criteria, we come to the commission for your consideration and possible approval.
I understand that what we're doing here, we're spending money that we anticipate that we're gonna get to fulfill these 2 obligations, which I guess I can live with that. The issue I get is if we have other projects coming and all of a sudden somebody gets an application in, takes all the money, then the other obligations have to sit and wait for the fund to build up or whatever. So we might not be picking, there might be another project that's coming along that would be has more benefit overall than maybe, so I'm not saying anything against these, but I mean, my term up at the legislature is we had approved buildings. We'd always, if they couldn't get on the list, they wanted to have
Priority going forward.
No, they wanted to have study money. They wanted to get, well, if you can't fund us, well, let's go ahead so we can fund us enough so we can do our due diligence and all of those things that goes into it. And then so the next year, they will all automatically wanted, well, we've already invested in it. So I'm just saying as a commission, we need to be thinking about that. I think this one's going to be quick enough that we might be all right. But I think it's an issue that, if we had 10 or 15 projects coming in at a time, then it might be a different story. But on this one, I decided I was okay with it as long as we don't make it a habit of pre-spending on every application that comes in. Because I think that when we do that, people all of a sudden realize, well, I don't have it, there's no money, so why should we do that? They still need to get their application in so they can be considered, but I just don't want to take away, I want to make it fair for everyone, not for 1 or 2 to come in and suck up all the money and nothing be able to happen in the future. That's my opinion. But I think it's an issue that at a future day, we'll probably want to have a little discussion about.
Thank you.
I would agree with you, Senator or Commissioner. I'm just wondering how many people know about this fund, how many entities, and if it's widely known and widely discussed. And I share your concern that this would be a good thing to discuss.
Yeah, it would be decided, make some policy on it. But I understand what we're doing. I'm not opposed to it. But I'm just saying, as a commission, we need to have that discussion, what we want to do in the future.
And right now, the policy says first come, first serve. Was that part of the?
Yes,
rule?
as
So if there's no one in behind, so that even supports why we're doing what we're doing.
Right.
But if we had 1 or 2 projects that was waiting, I'm not sure I could support what we're doing here. But since there's no one there, I'm okay with it.
you make excellent points. The 2 applications were received at the same time within an hour of each other, and the conversation went very similar to what you were saying, and that is how basically one of the other things that we try to do is find ways to say yes, and this was a way that we were able to do that. The other alternative is that you can say no, only what's there, and they can come back.
Well, it makes more work. If we do that, it makes more work for you.
And you. So
And
that's
us.
part of
And
the
so
reason why we did this.
I think under the circumstances, I think we're fine doing what we're doing, but I just don't know if that's what I don't want to see everyone come in like this where we grab 2 million and all of a sudden here in 6 months, we're going to have another 2 million. And so here's a $4 million project. I'm not sure that's fair to the rest of the entities in the state.
But if there's 2 million processed based on the base point, that they're qualified, applications qualified, and there's nothing behind them. So I'm sure we're safe to go at this
Yeah,
point.
I think we are, but I think
Yeah, for the
we need to-
future.
We need to kind of flesh this out a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
But if I may, Lyle, we do have a prioritization process for this fund, correct? If we get more than one application and we don't have enough money?
We got 2 applications. They went through the prioritization process, which is basically a point-based process, which asks the questions, is there public-private partnership involvement? Both of them have it, so they both got a point. Are they, but for these funds, would it help accelerate the project? Yes. I mean, so those are, each of those things, all 6 criteria were met. They were tied. They both got 6 points. They both would have been top priority based on what was received and what was available. And so that's why they're both in front of you today.
So for instance, these both scored well, so that gives the commission some assurance that we both, by our process, we viewed them as good projects.
And I would say, on that, we covered that yesterday in our meeting. And it's good to have it brought up again today for the official record. But I'm just saying that I'm okay. We're good with what we're doing. It makes sense to not have to bring this up in January or whatever. So, but I just think we just be thinking about it. If there's something we ought to do. There's a certain little nexus that seems to be taking almost all of this money in certain areas, and I'm not sure that I'm not sure the other entities that could qualify, even though it's available. They should, but they might not.
That's my concern as well. This is broadly known, is that, our entities aware of this opportunity, and so that's a question I would like to be able to address in the future.
I know that personally, we have had several communities have taken advantage of this SIP program in the past. Community Provo and from Washington State, even Washington County, they have had opportunity to do that. Yes.
You can see on the website the actual loans that have been the active loans: Fountain Green, Escalante, Vineyard, Salt Lake County, Eagle Mountain, Henrietteville Town, Elwood Town, Mill Creek. So there's a big, broad cross section of big entities and small entities that have taken advantage of this infrastructure bank program.
Well, hopefully we'll get more applications and we'll be able to evaluate it. And
So one more question, Lyle. If we had supposedly for today 3 applications, all qualified, then Sandy would have been the last to consider, because they're going for the futuristic borrowing or deferred opportunity than the third application was just, I'm ready to take it now.
Or we may have asked them to reapply for less.
Sure. Okay.
and that's always an opportunity.
Okay.
I mean, we could redo these without the full amount and have them get back in. But on this particular one, that doesn't make sense to me to have them spend their time, us spend our time with no one else in the wings. But that might not be the case all the time.
Sure.
I appreciate the fact that all that's here, all that's available.
Okay. Continue, please.
Okay. So the city has asked for the maximum term available, which is 15 years. And so basically the process is, according to the rule, we established that the rate should be determined on the date of application. And so that rate corresponds to a 2.75% general obligation bond at AAA rating, plus a 50 basis point additive for 3.25% over that term. And then, are there any questions about any of that? Then I'll move on to the next one so that you can see there are differences based on the duration of the loan term that is requested. So here we have South Jordan City has asked for $984,000 via application for the purpose of building a collector road linking 5600 West from 102nd South to 108th South parallel to Mountain View Corridor to provide some additional north-south connectivity as well as support development in the area. And they're doing that section, and then the Larry H. Miller Group is going to do also another section that they're building together. The city's requesting a 10-year term, which corresponds to a 2.45 rate plus the 50 basis points, which was 2.95. So it's 3.25 versus 2.95 because the shorter time frame typically corresponds to a lower interest rate. And then here is a map showing that new road that is anticipated to be built with these funds.
What is that circular? That's not a.
I believe it's a UTA park and ride. Tracks parking.
So Lyle, since we have the items A and B separated in agenda, would you please state the motion separately for each item?
Yes, so the first one is a motion, we're recommending a motion to approve up to $5.3 million from the State Infrastructure Bank to Sandy City at the time of closing after January 1st and before March 15th, 2023.
Very clear language.
I move for approval.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. Any other questions, clarifications, concerns? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 9-A is approved.
For the second one for South Jordan City, just a motion to approve a loan of $984,000 from the SIB to South Jordan City under the terms that have been shared today, 2.95% over 10 years.
Okay,
Mr. Chair will make that
Please.
motion.
thank you.
I'll second it.
There's a motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Item 9B is approved. Thank you. Thank you, Lyle.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Okay, Charles back for number 10, SR 172, Abandonment Resolution.
I guess y'all didn't have enough of me. Agenda item number 10 involves an abandonment of a portion of 5600 West, or SR 172, in Salt Lake City. This is just a hair below 700 South and a little bit north of 1100 South. Again, in Salt Lake City on the west side. This is an area that's surrounded by considerable industrial development. A number of the distribution centers are located in this area. We're not too far from Interstate 80. Just north of the 201 or 21st South freeway. When we rebuilt 56 West, we added a railroad overpass in this area over the UP line. In order to maintain that line functioning and operational during construction, we realigned 56 West slightly. It moves now in a little curve to the west as you get on the bridge and go up and over the railroad tracks. You come back down and you get back into the old alignment. But there's a portion of it that is no longer being used. It sits next to private property, and we think it would be appropriate to abandon it. And I'll walk through how that happens with you. So as we move through the packet of information, we have a resolution which lays out the statutory authority. Ordinarily, the legislature has jurisdiction and control over what happens and what becomes a state highway. Between sessions, the code provides that the Transportation Commission has that authority. And here we are between sessions with a piece of property we hope to abandon. One thing that people often find confusing with abandonments is, why don't you just sell it? Why don't you quit claim it? Again, under the code, the way that we dispose of property that we no longer need depends on how we acquired the right to use it. Where we acquire by some form of deed or other conveyance, we convey it back by some form of deed or other conveyance. Where we have acquired it through some form of dedication, either through public use or dedicated on a plat map as part of a development, or as part of some sort of larger city planning operation. The form of surplusing, if you will, is through abandonment. Highways continue until they are abandoned by the authority, the entity with authority to do that. And in this case, that's y'all, that's the Transportation Commission. This is an item that the Region 2 and Right of Way have worked on together to bring forward to you. The resolution sets out that we're abandoning what is shown in Exhibit A, which is a legal description of 23,103 square feet, or just over 0.5 acres, 0.507 to be precise. And eventually we'll get to the legal description, which is here. This was prepared by one of our consultants who works with us regularly on surplusing excess property. And then here we have a right-of-way exhibit with the surveyor's stamp. I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to zoom out just a little bit. See all of it. This is obviously a dated aerial. There is now a large bridge structure that comes up and over the railroad tracks that don't show on this aerial. They're just to the south of what we see here. The hatched area is the slightly more than half an acre that is proposed to be abandoned. Looking at the aerial, you may wonder, why aren't we abandoning further up? Well, this is where the bridge touches back down and comes back into the old alignment of 5600 West. So below and above this, we either don't own the property because it's the rail line, or it's still 56 West and we're still using it. So we're only abandoning a relatively modest portion of what we no longer need because it's out of the alignment of the new 5600 West. There's a significant maintenance burden associated with this type of now vacant pavement. As you can imagine, with the challenges we're facing in the affordable housing front, we often have folks trying to occupy this type of empty space. And by abandoning it, we cede control to the adjoining landowners under applicable statutes that address what happens to this type of ownership, and allow them to be able to address issues that currently are our responsibility. So this relieves a significant maintenance burden from UDOT. And I will add, we have been working closely with the adjoining landowner who has requested this abandonment take place. And so they are on board with taking over that responsibility. And so we're not imposing a burden that is not wanted by the landowner. They operate a fairly sizable truck rental business. And so this is the sort of thing they are more than capable of taking care of and likely adding to their property to increase the size of their business. So our request today would be approval of the resolution to abandon these 22,103 square feet of the former alignment of 5600 West.
And who will be the new owner, and who will, this will be?
That is a good question. That there are statutes that dictate what happens. It goes to whoever last held some form of fee title to it. We have not dug into that title history, and working with the property owner and their counsel, they've indicated they're happy to do that work and make sure it goes the right way. But this causes, once we record this resolution, it automatically reverts to whoever last showed as the fee owner of this property. I don't want to speculate, but I suspect a portion of it will go to Salt Lake City, who owns some easements and utility easements in the area, as well as to the truck rental business to the east.
It's a private entity.
That the latter one is a private entity, yes. Salt Lake City does have an interest in a portion of this because of their utilities that run through the area.
Charles, the piece of ground that's not shaded, we've got some green and then some gray, and green again. Is that seems unusual to me.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
At the bottom of your map, we have the green, the piece, and then there's another little square piece
down here.
And then there's a gap there.
Yes.
I just,
This is where the railroad is going to place barrier and fencing to protect their rail right of way. This is getting close to the railroad.
okay.
Yes,
Okay.
Commissioner.
Are we receiving any compensation?
That was my question.
No, we would not be entitled to any. This was received through a no fee dedication, and so when we abandon it, it returns to whoever has the right to it.
Do you have any obligation to doing a cleanup there, or is there, or it's an abandonment as is?
That's correct. Yes.
How many of these do we do annually?
Not very many of this nature where there's been a realignment. We do have regularly have a number of additions to the state highway system that are primarily run through Leif and Peter and their policy process and are approved by the legislature. This is not, it's not adding anything new to the highway system, right? It's just noting this small piece of property has been moved out of alignment, is no longer needed for a highway purpose. And so we are abandoning this small portion. 5600 West remains a state route and on the books as a state route, just not in this specific location.
If the truck business cannot prove the deed to the property, then what happens? Goes to the Salt Lake City or the UDOT takes over?
They have very capable counsel who's watching this presentation as we speak, and he's assured me that he feels confident they'll be able to do that. But it would be up to another landowner who wants to assert right and title to it to come forward and claim that ownership.
Okay.
This is we abandon and it is no longer ours, and the adjoining owners get to address ownership as they see fit.
This is almost the equivalent of a quick claim deed.
It would be very similar.
Going back
yes.
to that.
Yeah. It comes through a very different statutory process, but it is very similar in that respect.
So what is your motion that you're?
Our motion or our request to the commission would be to approve the resolution that's included in this presentation as it has been presented.
I would move that we so move.
Okay, thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other questions, concerns that we haven't asked? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Item 9-B is approved.
And with
Oh,
that
sorry,
approval, I
10.
believe Heather has handed you the resolution to sign and we'll take care of getting it recorded. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Item number 11 is administrative rule review, and we have A and B. The A will be presented by Troy Peterson. And the number B is Lyle McMullen. Did they change the name?
Commissioner, it's great to be before you, and I've never heard a happier sentence ever from this commission, but Troy's asked me to take care of this administrative rule. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to present an informational item, R920-50. It's our ropeway operation safety rule. We've had to make some updates to that. Most of these are just procedural because the ANSI standards have updated. They updated around funicular vehicles, and so we've updated the corresponding parts of our administrative rule. We've also made a couple of small changes to adjust the registration submittals that we require to register a ropeway in the state of Utah. This will allow us to draw closer to the state code and to improve effectiveness of the inspections that are performed. And then the last change we made on this is we've updated the standard, or we've updated the requirements according to the ANSI rule, regarding the startup and warning alarms for ropeways in the state of Utah. So that's a measure that will help the maintenance workers, the folks who operate those systems, to be safer in their day-to-day operations.
Do it, Louie, just to throw a ball.
Okay. Are there any questions?
What's a ropeway other than a ski lift?
A ropeway is just it's a boring way to say a ski lift or a funicular or a way to get people from point A to point B using ropes, cable ropes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lyle, you come back, please.
Hello again.
Hello. Yeah, you need to stop playing and paying attention. Lyle is waiting for you.
Apologize. My, my stomach's on Eastern Standard Time at the moment. Apologize.
All right. Chairman, Commissioners,
Please.
I'm coming to you today for a review of yet another rule, but this would, unlike last month, this rule is actually your rule. It's the rule governing the crossing of our approval of highway facilities on sovereign lands. So this month, I'm just going to update you on the review, and then next month I'll return back again based on your feedback and the like for an actual motion to move forward to update the rule. And that's basically what this is last month when I came to you, we discussed changes to the unsolicited proposal process based on applications we've received and lessons that we'd learned. And one of the things that we identified while we were going through that is that this other rule, this other unique animal of crossing sovereign lands is also in itself a type of unsolicited proposal. And so when we looked at that and the new rule for unsolicited proposals, it became apparent that if somebody tried to do a highway facility on sovereign lands, it would be difficult, if not impossible, to follow this rule and the unsolicited proposal rule. And so the point of updating this rule is to make it in alignment with the unsolicited proposal rule, so that if somebody ever comes to us and wants to cross, say, Utah Lake with a highway facility, that it will be easier to do so by just following the unsolicited proposal process, which now has a lot of more clear understanding of what needs to happen to be an acceptable proposal to the department. And so we've basically done two things with this rule. Number one, it's about 12 years old, and so we updated it to the current legal language and the current rule nomenclature and vernacular. And then we also aligned it with the application process that we now have for the unsolicited proposal process. So basically just those two things. Typographical errors, updated language to be more in line with other rules that we have at UDOT and within the state, and also then to direct it to the unsolicited proposal process so that a future applicant would be able to navigate the process more successfully.
Well, one question, is there still a requirement that they pay a fee to the state in order to make an unsolicited proposal be reviewed?
Yes.
What's that fee and how's it determined?
It is the lower of $20,000 or 1% of the anticipated project cost. And so what we do with that is we deposit it, and then because we don't have, you're looking at the entire staff for the unsolicited proposal process and for the approval of highway facilities on sovereign lands process. And so typically what I do is I hire a consultant partner to help navigate that process and help put together the meetings and put together the team and analyze the documents and that, and we use that deposit to pay for those consultant partners. And so
EV charging stations, is that an example of also that we talked about a little bit earlier? Would that be a highway facility on sovereign lands?
No. That might be a public-private partnership,
Yeah.
which is one of the preferred mechanisms that we're hoping to invest those funds.
Right.
But that, and it could conceivably be an unsolicited proposal on the part of somebody who wanted to do that with us, but as yet it hasn't. And then another reason for the fee is to make sure that people who want to propose projects to UDOT are serious. We don't get a bunch of frivolous proposals that require a lot of time and money and attention. So
You mentioned also on sovereign lake bed lands. Are there other sovereign lands besides lake beds? Just curious.
I'm not familiar. This particular rule was developed in response to and the activity surrounding an attempt to cross Utah Lake.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
So, this might be an interesting discussion. We're seeing, obviously lakes are changing. So we now have around Bear Lake a lot more land and it's sovereign land. But people are driving on this land. So it's creating discussions about accessing the beach and driving across the sovereign land. And actually, some of the attempts to drive across this area are unsuccessful and people are getting stuck. And this is becoming a discussion for, I can see why this discussion is coming up in terms of the Utah Lake, but I just want to throw out this idea that the lake bed is being exposed now, so there's a greater area of southern land around the lake, which is creating some interesting discussions. And we're looking at it in a planning process right now, looking at parking and build some kind of facility to get people safely across this area that they're not so wisely accessing.
Sure, it's a great point.
Just kind of putting that out there for people who are not aware of
Okay.
when the lake bed becomes exposed, that it is.
The Great Salt Lake's gonna have a lot of that.
Yep.
I've read that there's some people not so wisely accessing that as well.
So, all right. So the point of this was for review. I'll be back again next month if in the event there's any additional feedback for us to refine it.
Thank you. Okay, the last item on the agenda is the commission report. I would like to go to my left, Commissioner Van Tassel. Any reports from your committee attendance?
We got a meeting coming up, but we haven't had one for a month or so.
Okay,
We saw part of it come through today from our last meeting in August.
Commissioner Evans?
No, they made updates on their local plans, but nothing to report here.
Okay, Commissioner Kramer.
Commissioner Menlove and I have the corridor preservation assignment. It's just been great. And we appreciate so much what's happening there. And you can see professionalism is reflected in the results.
Commissioner Law?
I have nothing to report.
I'll just add on to what Commissioner Kramer's saying about the professionalism and maybe handle efficiently and effectively. Appreciate that.
Thank you. And I attended Community Impact Board last month and they had 5 projects, the sport complex, road project, landfill, also maintenance shed. 5 projects presented, 1 was denied. And I haven't had a chance to yet to attend our TDEC that's this coming week. So anything from Terry, Lisa? Any of the region directors? Any brave person you would like to speak to? If not, I would like to have another although next meeting is October 14, Santaquin. So please mark your calendars.
We also have the UDOT annual conference, October 25th, 26th, 27th.
Thank you for
It's
that.
always fabulous.
It's fabulous. With that, I would like to have another motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Drive safely. Thank you again being with us. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.